Hello guys, my name is Amina and I'm gonna share my testimony today. Let's get right into it. So basically this testimony is going to be in 3 parts because there is layers to my testimony. I need to put categories so you can understand and have the full spectrum and see where we're going and where we're landing. We're gonna start with childhood years. So I was born and raised in France from Malian immigrants' parents. And as you may or may not know, in Mali, most of the population is Muslim. So I was born and raised in a Muslim family. Basically, I was exposed to this from a very young age and I had to comply with it. Whether I liked it or not, I was obliged, if I may say, to follow it, like without having the choice. I believe it was when I was 6-7 years old that I started going to Quran school to learn how to read the Quran, and I had to pray, fast during Ramadan, but honestly the heart was not there. I was just forced to go, so that created a barrier from the very beginning. I started going to Quran school. In classes, we were to study the Quran, read it, but not really understanding what was going on behind it. It was basically reading it, memorize it, and spit it out. But I don't really understand why I'm there. So from a very, very young age, I was like, but what's the point of doing this? I don't understand why I'm here. I don't want to be here and I don't understand why I'm here. Also, on top of this, the infamous grocery shop, if I can call it that way, was next door, and it was owned by one of our uncles, not direct uncles, but if you're coming from an African family, you understand what I mean by uncle. After every classes, we had to go and greet him. However, he was taking advantage of me when we were going for the greeting. It was abuse. If I can put it that way, it was just abuse. So that created the discomfort in me where, first of all, I didn't want to go there in the first place, and now I'm going there and I have to face my uncle there all the time, every time I'm going there. And I was crying, I was telling my mom, telling everybody that, and my brother as well, because I have a big brother, I was telling them that I don't want to go. I really don't want to go. It felt wrong, so I didn't want to go, but they did not give me the choice, so I basically had to go whether I liked it or not. So that created a little bit of a trauma, to be honest with you. That started opening a door for many things to come that I'm going to mention later. Knowing this, knowing what I was seeing around me, what I was living during Quran school, growing up with my family, the family issues that I was seeing, like the fights, the abuse, the emotional abuse, the physical abuse, the fights and stuff that I was seeing in my house, it was a bit contradictory. I was like, okay, everybody claims to be religious in my household, but everybody is violent, insultant, lying, disrespectful, judgmental, and I'm being abused as well by the same people that claim to be religious. So I was like, I don't want to follow this. Like, what is this? I didn't want to follow it, to be honest with you. It seems very hypocritical, so I didn't really want to follow it. Slowly but surely growing up, like now I'm towards 10, 11-ish, I'm following it, but not really. I'm doing the prayer, but just because I have to do it, just because I have to be there. I'm doing the fasting during Ramadan, but honestly I was not really doing it. I was like eating with my family in the morning before it starts, but then I was just carrying on with my day, eating, drinking water, juice and stuff like that. I was just faking it, to be honest with you. I was just faking it, straight up faking it, and I didn't feel anything in my heart. I was just there. I was just there. Let's talk about school a little bit. In school, I was okay. I was in between, let's say. I wasn't really pushing myself, and that's what the teachers were saying, that I could push myself more, but I wasn't, because I was there but not really there, and I was just doing the bare minimum in school, not trying to push myself further. I was bullied a lot as well because of my appearance. Nothing major, not that I had like something major problematic physically, but it's just I was just being bullied because of my hair, because of the way I looked, because of the clothes I was wearing, because I wasn't really dressing like other people in my classroom. Not that I'm coming from a poor family, but like average, and everybody else in this area where I was living is average as well. So, but no, they, for some reason they were picking on me, which left a lot of scars and a lot of problem in terms of self-confidence, but we'll see this later. I used to fight as well. I used to fight a lot with boys, specifically for some reason. It was just boys. I had arguments with girls. It was mostly arguments. I've had some fights with some girls as well sometime. I was part of girls group, but they had me just to bully me, literally. They had me just because they can pick on me. They can gather together and pick on me. So I was in the group, but not really. I remember like each years of middle school, I was fighting. I had a fight, a major fight that got me out of the school. After this, something major happened when I was 11 years old. So my mom and dad divorced. So my dad had to leave. So he left the house. He went back to my home country, which is Mali. That was a bit heartbroken because out of every other member of my family, namely my mom, my brother, my uncles and aunts, out of everybody, I was the only one that was very, very close. We were like this. We had a good relationship and then he left. So my world crumbled a little bit. Now let's go for the teenage years. As far as religion is concerned, I moved completely away. Now that I'm growing a little bit, I'm becoming a teenager, so you can't really use force. You can, like my family, like my mom, she can use force and she can have authority, but not as much as when I was a bit younger, so she couldn't really force me much to follow. I wasn't praying like that, like every now and then. If she manages to get me to pray, I would. Ramadan, I try to do it every now and then. There is some days where I manage to go all the way through without cheating. Some others, no, I'm not gonna lie to you. But I wasn't really following religion, and I gathered all religions as a whole. Keep in mind that I was never exposed to anything that has to do with Christianity and anything that has to do with the Bible. I just gathered all religions in one box and put it aside, and I was not interested in any of it. I started being exposed a little bit to the internet. I don't remember the years. I'm gonna put it here because I don't really remember the years, but it was when internet was starting to be a bit of a thing. So you can do Google search. I think I started having Facebook around that time. It was really in the beginning of Facebook, I believe. So I started being exposed to movies, music from the US. I was a huge fan of Chris Brown. Let's just be real. I was so, oh wow. I was giving headaches to people around me just because of Chris Brown. I started being exposed to video games, and unfortunately I started being exposed to porn as well. Side story, to come back a little bit in the past, growing up after the abuse I was getting there, I've been abused also afterwards by cousins, because it's not cousins, it's close to the family, but it was a lot. It was a lot of abuse growing up, and I believe that this opened doors for the sexual problems that came afterwards. Me being exposed to the American world with music, dance as well, that's how I kind of learned English as well. I was learning in school and by the way of my emotional escape, I will say. I was really, really into dancing at some point, so I wanted to follow dancing class. I was going to dancing classes. In middle school, we had a dance group, so I could dance there and I could dance outside of school. So that was for me to be good in this very dark environment. In the midst of me being online, I was going in chat groups as well, online chat group. I don't know if any of y'all will know this, but I was on Kik. I don't know it. Oh my, this is old. This is very, and I'm not that old. I'm 27, so I'm not even that old anyways. But if any of you know what I'm talking about, just put it in the comments. It's just so I don't feel alone in this. But yeah, I was going on Kik to chat with boys. You know, with that age, like it's around 13, 14, you're starting like knowing the background that I just told you. I'm starting being exposed to sensuality and all this stuff. I'm being exposed to a lot of this. I fall into masturbation, unfortunately. That was frequent, like I think daily. I believe daily. So now I'm being exposed to all of this. I have girlfriends that are having boyfriends and stuff of that nature. So I'm being exposed to this kind of world now. I'm chatting with boys and stuff like that. And I'm starting to meet with some of them. We didn't do much, to be fair. We didn't go all the way with it, but we were involved, if I may say. And then, unfortunately, I lost my virginity at the age of 14 with a boy from my middle school that I was in love with, but he didn't love me back. He just wanted to take advantage of the situation anyways, but I don't blame you. It's okay. There's no problem with that. So yeah, that was it. So I lost it at 14, but from 14 to 16, 17, I didn't do much. So it was my first time there. And then up to 16, 17, I wasn't active. Let's go for the young adult years. Now I'm in high school. I'm feeling a bit better as far as physically. The bullying stopped. Like when I got in high school, the bullying stopped. I felt a bit better about myself. I looked a bit better as well. So I was doing okay. Physically speaking, I was part of the basketball team for the beginning of my first high school year, but I stopped because I had to make a choice between basketball and dancing. And as you know, I love dancing, so I say, okay, never mind, I'm just gonna stop basketball and I'm just gonna go for dancing. And I was part of the grades as well, so I was like, okay, I'm going for dancing, it's fine. Now that I'm part of the dancing team, I feel cool, I feel like I'm involved, I feel accepted, I'm not bullied anymore, and I'm part of the winning team, quote unquote, and the people that are quote unquote known in the campus. So, you know, that comes with a lot of problems. So now I'm more and more involved with boys from my high school, boys from the dancing environments, like because I was going to dance battles. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but in France, people from France, they will know exactly what I'm talking about. Like the dancing scene in Paris, I was involved in the dancing scene, going to battles, whatever the case may be. And I was involved with boys from the dancing environment and from my high school. So now that I'm involved with them, I'm starting to be exposed as well to smoking and drinking, knowing that my very first terrible drinking experience was when I was 14, 15, and it was terrible. It was terrible. I don't know what I was thinking anyways. Now I'm being more exposed to this, where I'm going to parties, we're doing house parties with my best friend. At the time, we're doing house parties with drinks, smoking, cigarettes and stuff like that. I remember there was a guy that I was really, really into, that I really wanted, and it took me years to actually have something with him, but I ended up having something with him and other guys. If I can summarize, I was in the world. Anything that you can think of that is worldly, I was in. As I said, I was into the internet culture. I was like really, really into music. I was on Tumblr. Those that knows. I was following Chris Brown, Rihanna, all of these people. I was following them. At some point, that planted a seed in me, and I'm in dancing as well. So all of this gathered together made me want to be a professional dancer. I just wanted to be a star, literally. I just wanted to be a professional dancer or singer. I was writing songs as well back then. So I really just wanted to be in Hollywood. I wanted to be in Hollywood, let's be real. I just wanted to be in Hollywood. I saw myself living in Los Angeles. It was just... So now that I know and I'm set that I want to be a dancer, I worked to get my high school diploma, and the university that I wanted to attend was for dancing arts, if I can call it that way. It's complicated, but let's call it dancing arts, so I can study dancing, basically. It's not the best explanation, guys. I'm sorry for this, but that's how I can explain it. And I pretty much didn't give the choice to my mom and my family for the university. I actually selected two options, which was dancing arts. One was in the north of France, one was in the south of France, and I lived in Paris. It's in the middle. My mom was not really happy of me wanting to move in a completely new city. She was not having me wanted to follow a dancing career. She wanted something that is more serious. She was right, to be fair, but I wanted to be a dancer, and you could not tell me otherwise. I was very, very rebellious, so you could not tell me otherwise. We gathered everything together, moved out, went to south of France because that's what I choose to follow dancing arts. So now it's a problem. I moved out of the family house. I was already misbehaving when I was in the family house, so it was going to be worse. It was worse when I moved out of the house. Everything that I was already doing got amplified. So I started going to actual parties, going to nightclubs, going to house party with my friends, drinking more. I remember the time I got really, really drunk was when I moved out of the house and I was living on my own. That was the moment where I got extremely drunk, started smoking more cigarettes and substances as well, having relations with boys and stuff like that. I was on dating apps a lot. I was meeting these people, so I was living a wayward life. Obviously, I'm supposed to be there for high school and follow my studies, which I didn't do because I was busy doing everything else. So of course I did not graduate, so I missed the first year, so I had to enroll again for the first year, which I stopped immediately after the first semester because I was still doing my stuff. I was still dancing though. I was dancing outside of school. I was doing battles, dance competitions. I was dancing, according to me, I was dancing still, but outside of school. So obviously now that I'm no longer in school, I had a scholarship that I lost because I'm not bringing results, so of course they're not going to keep the scholarship. So now that I'm no longer in school, I have to feed myself. I have to leave. I found a job. I was a barista. I was making coffees. So I was living off of this job, like full-time job. I had my first serious long-term relationship, but this is for another video, so I'll go into details about it later. So basically, yes, I was really living a very chaotic lifestyle. So I got into this relationship, broke up, and I got into a very terrible toxic loop of wanting to meet with men and to have my way with them, let's say. I was so unserious. You cannot find anybody so unserious as I was. Like, you cannot. And that's the problem. So that got me into a loop. And as I said previously, I believe the abuse that I've experienced from a very young age planted a very terrible seed that led to addictions, basically. I couldn't function without having relations and having some kind of activity. I really could not live without it. Like, literally, I couldn't live without it. And I was having my way almost every day, one way or the other, but it was a very terrible lifestyle, to be fair. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was not the best lifestyle, and I don't recommend anybody to do that. I really don't. So, adult years. So now, as I mentioned, I'm working as a barista, not really going anywhere with my career. That's my very first job. I'm not looking into being somebody in this industry. I'm just there. Now I'm being exposed a little bit to entrepreneurship, to business, being a business owner and stuff like that. I had people around me that was into this kind of stuff. They were into trading. They were into MLMs, if you know what it is. If you don't, that's what it is. And some were into drop shipping. If you don't know what it is, here you go. I got into a MLM group for trading. They enrolled me in there. So in my own head, since I was trying to rearrange my mindset, I was not having it working for a 9 to 5. I was not having it. I need to quit. I'm not interested. I need to quit. This is not for me. Got into the MLM group. It didn't work. I lost some bucks. I had a friend of mine that was into dropshipping and it was very successful at it, and I saw him like where he started and how he got to the point where he was. So I saw him putting in the work. With all of this and this influence and me wanting to be my own boss, quit my job without really thinking about it. Left the apartment, got back to my family house. I was getting government money at that time as well, and I was trying to build a business. It didn't work. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. So I started trying to work on this, and I wasn't really being supported by my family in this. They were not having it. My mom was not having it from the jump anyways, and now that I think about it, I was doing absolute nonsense anyways, so I understand why she was not really happy about my life choices, because it was terrible life choices. I'm trying to work on this. I'm not getting support. I was not asking to have any financial support. I wanted to support myself financially. All I wanted was moral support. You don't need to pay for anything, just at least I want encouragement, which I was not having. I was getting the absolute opposite, and that created frustration, arguments, family issues. It created a lot of problems. It was already problems anyways outside of my situation, but my situation added more to the family dramas. I was most of the time outside of the house carrying on with my activities, which was going out for parties, going out to drink, meeting with boys, sleeping out. It was just a lot of, I was just living like this. Then after I moved out of my house, my home, and went back to the family, I started traveling a little bit. So I've been to Malta during summer 2019, I believe. Went to Belgium as well. And after this, winter 2019, I was back in Paris, like stopped traveling a little bit, but was still going out, still living the nightlife, if I can call it that way. I started being exposed more and more to the LGBTQ circles, and I felt like I belonged to that group for some reason. I was mostly involved with men, so technically I shouldn't try and see what's going on there, and that was not my interest, but for some reason I got interested in it, and I believed that I was bisexual for quite some time. Then I started being involved with girls as well. From winter 2019, like I believe my very first experience was in winter 2019. Then I was also planning to go to Los Angeles. I was supposed to go to Los Angeles that same winter towards December, like end of December I was supposed to go. But something happened and I couldn't go. I still went, but I couldn't go in December because I did absolute nonsense. That's a fun story time, so let me just explain. So basically my birthday is in November, end of November, so obviously I'm traveling a month after. But for my birthday, me and my friend at the time, my group at the time, we decided that we were gonna go out every single night of my birthday week, which we did. One of these nights, to cut the story short, one of these nights I was extremely drunk. I had a fanny pack with my passport and my ID. I don't know why I had both of them at the same time. I have no clue. I lost it. I lost my fanny pack with my papers in there 1 month prior to travel. As you may know, if you don't have a passport, you can forget it. There is no way you'll travel to the US without a passport. So I was finished. I had to redo my passport and stuff like that. I was trying to do it as fast as I can in order to not miss my travel, but ended up missing it. Yeah, that was sad. That was sad, but I ended up pushing back the travel for mid-January 2020. So I still went, but it was not as planned. So went to Los Angeles. I stayed there for a whole month. It was long. I was still trying to follow my entrepreneur career. I had a routine with this. I had some friends there. I had one friend and exposed to other friends. All this crazy lifestyle that I was living when I was back home, it was this times 10 on steroids. It was terrible. Like the lifestyle was an increase in nonsense, if I can put it in the best way ever. Absolute madness that I was living there. The smoking, the drinking, the relations. It was nonsense, all kinds of nonsense. And also that's where another seed got planted, where I wanted to be a DJ. I remember we went to a party with my friends and there was this female DJ DJing basically, and I was mesmerized. I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to do that, I can see myself doing this, and I love music and stuff like that, so that's what I want to do. So I took her contact and so on and so forth, carried on with my trip, went back home, and we had more and more arguments with my family. It was getting worse, and I remember out of the blue, after a big fight that I had with my family member, I moved out of the house. I went to one of my friend's house, spent the week there. In the midst of this week, I made the decision to just leave the house, leave France, to go to another country. So moved out to Malta. I remember I booked my flight ticket. It was $20 back then. It was cheap. There we go, March 2020, first week of March 2020. Very important to know because you know what happened in 2020. So March 2020, first week, I moved. And also keep in mind that when I was in Los Angeles, the seed was planted because I wanted to be a DJ, but also the seed to be a stripper as well, a dancer. Most of those seeds were planted, so I was like, okay, I can try and make my way and be where I want to be, following this path, which is very wrong. So now I moved to Malta, went in town literally to find an exotic dancer job, which I found, but I didn't even lasted 3 days because it just felt wrong. It was really, it felt so wrong. I was feeling shameful. It was wrong. He was just not feeling the best, and I wasn't really confident in my body like that as well. So it was just wrong. So I left after 3 days. And little do I know, the week after, we had a complete shutdown because it was COVID. So we had a complete shutdown. They closed all the clubs. They closed everything. 1 week after me getting in Malta. So I was working as a virtual assistant for a friend of mine that was into business. But I was not getting the money that I wanted to get because, remember, I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be rich. So I wasn't getting what I wanted to get. I was trying to find ways to make easy money, to make money that is easy. So I started being involved in some kind of sites that looks like OF, but it was not really OF, and I was trying to remain anonymous, so I wasn't showing my face. I started meeting with people from this site as well, and I was getting money and stuff like that. And my mindset was so warped. It was so twisted. I remember I was listening to a song. I'm going to put the title of it here. I was listening to this song. Don't go and listen to it. It's not necessary. If you want to, just read the lyrics for reference, but don't go and listen to it. I don't want you to be involved in worldly music, this kind of worldly music as well. So no need to listen to it. Just go and read the lyrics. That was my mindset. And that's what led me into meeting these guys and get money for it. At the same time, I started the DJ career, so I reached out to the girl that I took her contacts from Los Angeles for her to give me a list of equipment to get. So I got all the equipment. So I started training, like watching tutorials, whatever. And also I was very, very bold back then. So I started texting every single DJ that I could text from the island, and didn't get much response apart from one. And he became my mentor basically, but then he got into something else. So remember, I was meeting some guys for money, and I got into a relationship at the end of the day with 2 guys because 2 of them were consistent. So I got into a relationship with both of them at the same time, and now there is the DJ that on top of it. So I was into 3 relationships at the same time. It was just wrong. It was just flat out wrong. It got me into loads of problems. Me trying to make this thing work got me into a lot of problems, to the point that I couldn't physically stay in the island. I had to escape because I caused a lot of problems for myself, caused a lot of problems for other people as well. So I had to leave. Now I've lived all COVID in Malta, as I mentioned before, and now it's summer 2021. After I made a mess out of my life and didn't go anywhere, I had to cut everything out and leave, and just leave and go back home. After escaping for 1.5 years, I had to go back home. And I was devastated. Honestly, I was devastated because I was really thinking that my life was going somewhere. That's so delusional, but I felt like my life was going somewhere, which it wasn't. And now everything is plain in my face. I'm a failure. I failed everything. Anything that I'm trying to do is a complete failure. So that'll be it for today's episode. I made it this way on purpose because I want to go deeper in the next part into spirituality, like what was actually happening spiritually. Now that you have the picture of what I was doing, which I was in the world, I want to go more into details about what was happening spiritually and how is it tied to the relationships, because both of them are really tied, especially for my story. Both of them are tied together. So like the spiritual path and the relationship path and the career path is linked together. So that's why I want to keep it for part 2. So stay tuned for part 2. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, if something was not clear, if you want to know more about the specific topic that I mentioned about my testimony, feel free to comment below. Please subscribe to my channel. It's a brand new channel, so I would be very, very grateful for you to just follow. If you want to share it to a friend, feel free to share it to a friend. You will have to share the whole series though, because if you just share this video, they're not gonna know the whole story. So when the series is finished, share it to a friend, so that can be encouraging if somebody had a similar story or similar lifestyle, so you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. For now it was just darkness, but we'll get to the light later. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.